Hello everybody and welcome to our Biology 101 summer lab for Biology 1. And so for MUW I am teaching both the lecture and the lab, so I'm not going to really introduce myself too much here again because probably most of you are taking both of these classes together. But again, I'm Mr. Dotson, and I teach one of the people who teach Biology 1 here in the summer, as well as in the spring and fall depending on the semester. What I want to do is kind of introduce the course to you. It is different than the lecture. There are different requirements, and I want you to pull up your syllabus so that we can go through it. It might be a little bit grainy here on this video with the equipment that's been provided, but I do want to talk to you about this. Contact me through Canvas or through my MUW email account. We can meet if you need to, either by Skype, phone, Zoom, on Canvas, in person if need be, if we can schedule an appointment. And I'll be checking my emails between two or three times a day, between 8 and 5, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. You will need certain technology, specifically Firefox or Chrome browsers. Internet Explorer will not work in a lot of cases, and you will need a way to have a video taken and an audio, so you'll need an not MP3, sorry. You'll need a microphone and webcam to be able to do a few of the things that we're going to work on. And to authenticate yourself in the course, and you have to do this, you have to sign into Canvas, which you've already done because you're reading this and watching the video, with your student ID and use your password to Canvas. But then you also have to make a introduction video to the class. And if you're in the lecture and the lab, try to be creative and be a little bit different. Let me be a little something different. But this one's a little short, so it doesn't take long. But make sure you show your face, your ID, whether it's government issued or your MUW, but cover up any kind of information besides your name. So, because I don't need that information, and you shouldn't be giving it to me. So here is the labs that we're going to be doing, and in this course, labs are very similar to what you would do in lecture. The only thing, and this is a big thing, that's different, I'm sorry, I didn't mean lecture, I mean in person here on campus. The difference between doing it in person on campus is that I would set it up for you on campus. Here, you're going to have to gather the materials, which is going to add some time to your plate here, and it's going to require you to set it up. That means that you are responsible for making sure you do this lab. Not just do it, but also get everything you need to do it. So there are some things that are going to be due as well, and I'll talk to you about this as we go along, but there's definitely going to be a rough draft for a lab report that you're going to work on, and then the final exam. So it looks like the final exam has kind of gotten pushed down on the next page. There are some things you can read here. I'm not going to go through too many things, but attendance is one thing I want to get. Now, this is very interesting and also a little different than the lecture. There are going to be assignments that you have to do where you will watch the video or also just do the assignment where you fill out the handout. Filling out the handout and then uploading it will not give you any points, but it will allow me to determine that you've done the assignments and that you've participated, and therefore you have been there for that portion of the course. 70% of the time, I have to have that uploaded. If I don't have 70% of those, then I will have to assume that you're not participating, and then you'll have to fail the course. Excuse me, sorry about that. Okay, so be very careful. You have to be in the lecture as well, or have already taken the lecture to be able to take the lab. You can't take them the lab before taking the lecture, and they are separate courses, so they will get separate grades. They are not combined. They are separate courses that you're paying for separately and that you are getting a separate grade for, and they have different requirements. There will be one final exam. You will have to use Respondus Lockdown Browser. There is a practice quiz that I'm going to ask you to do so that you can practice to make sure you can do that before the end of the semester. Okay, so you have to do the lab exercises and you have to upload them to Canvas. If you don't, you have not done them. Even if you've taken the quiz, even if you have done other parts of the assignment, you have to do this too. There will be a quiz for every lab. You will get 2 attempts, and these can be open book. That's fine. Lab report. You're going to have to write a lab report over one of the labs. Now this is going to be really important. One, look ahead in this course to see what things are coming. There is one lab, okay, the salsa lab, one of the very first ones that we do. But you have to do it ahead of time, okay, or at least give me enough data for those who are going to do it, because the salsa lab is not something I can make you do. I can't make you eat the salsa, but for those that participate, I want you to send me the data as it's described in the lab ahead of time. There's a date for that, so that I can collate the data and get it ready from the class and provide it back to you in time to write your lab report. Okay, so this requires you to not wait till the last minute. You've got to do these things ahead of time. Pay attention to your deadlines. Use good time management. If you wait to the day that all of 1 week's labs are due, you're going to spend 6 to 9 hours trying to do all the labs and gather all the materials at once. You need to break it up, okay? There's a discussion board that's going to help you to talk amongst yourselves about doing these labs, what you thought was interesting, what you found hard. Now keep in mind, I'm warning you now in this video, time management is important. Please don't complain about having not enough time to do things. I know you're taking the lecture probably and the lab. You're choosing to do that. I understand you may work full time. I'm sorry, I can't help that. This is a compressed lab where you would normally do one of these per week in a 16 or 15 week semester. Here you've got to do 3 per week to be able to fit all of them in. That is just the nature of an intensive summer course. Okay, so just heads up, be really cognizant of this. Your grade will come from the quizzes, the lab report, rough draft, and a final draft. I will look at it, get it back to you, and you can fix it. The discussion boards, and then there's a comprehensive final exam that you'll take at the end. Now, you can read through most of the rest of this on your own, and you're going to be required to do so. The important dates, by the way, for dropping the class and when grades are coming out and all that stuff is here. But you need to make sure that you're prepared to do the lockdown browser. That information is here. Okay, I want you to read through the syllabus, make sure you understand it, and I want you to make sure that you sign this by hand, take a video, and sign that video, a picture, a JPEG file, a PDF, whatever, and then upload this back to Canvas to prove to me that you have read this, you have watched this video, and that you have a written document that you keep, and I'll have the digital version of that where you send it in on Canvas. Don't email it to me. Don't email it. Submit it on Canvas. Okay? And this is an agreement between us. Now go back to the course. You're going to see where you can get your syllabus. There is a list of supplies that you're going to need here. And I tried to label it by lab. Some of the stuff you don't have to get anything for, but others you do. Okay? So make sure that you get this material. I've tried to make it stuff that you might have at home as much as possible. Where you feel like you can make substitutions, I'll give you an example. If you don't have yellow pipe cleaners and purple pipe cleaners, but you've got red and blue, okay, that's totally fine. Okay, I'm totally fine with you being creative and figuring out like what to replace things with. There are some things that you can do that. Other things, it's a little more difficult. In the case of the DNA lab, there are certain things that you have to have. But I've tried to give you some options for things to be able to do this. Okay. I have also made a list of exercises to complete for the lab. Okay, so this will help you to keep up with what you have to fill out in your handout, and I will check these things to make sure that you've participated. Even though it's for 0 points, this is participation points. Here's where you do your online authentication, where you show me your ID and your video just to me. Here's a practice quiz so you can practice using your lockdown browser so you're ready for the final at the end. We have a signed syllabus contract in place. Perfect, okay. Then for each lab, I've divided them by lab 1, lab 2, and so on. I give you the lab handout, and this is where you can download the lab handout. right off of Canvas so that you can type directly into this, or you can print them and do it by hand. I'm fine either way. If you do it by typing, make sure you use a different color or something so I can see what is yours and not just what's typed in. There is a video many times that describes how to go through this. Now, if you will have actually gone through and watched the video and do everything, I'll tell you what to write down. So this is just you participating with me in this course. There's a place to submit that lab handout. There is a quiz. In this case, the first one is actually a hand-drawn graph, which is from the handout paper. You can print off just that one sheet if you would like from the Word document up here and just do that handout and submit it here. And then there's a discussion. That discussion is due later because then you can talk about those labs. But if you start talking about them before everybody's due with all their labs, you can help each other. So it's a place for you to communicate. And also you get your points for discussion. The next lab, interpreting graphs and error bars, same setup. Here we go, scientific method, but there's a special extra thing here. I need to have your scientific data done ahead of time by June 3rd. June 3rd. That means that you've got to do 1, 2, and part of 3 by June 3rd. The rest of it's going to be due later, but you need to do the lab ahead of time. The next lab is going to be about how to write a lab report, and so this will help you to understand how to use the scientific method data, okay, and what you learn from this lab on how to write your lab report too. So that's why we've got to have all this ahead of time so I can collate it, get it back to everybody, and then we can talk about it, and then we can write about it as a lab report. Here's how you write your lab report. Here's information about that. So I've got comments on how to write it. I have the rubric on the rough draft, the final draft, when those things are due. There is even an example lab report here in this appendix, so you can find that there. There are some labs that don't have videos because they're very straightforward, like Lab 5, the DNA lab. You can just read the instructions. Okay, it's not that hard. Lab 6. Again, no video for this one, but it is fairly straightforward, and this one actually is a model online. Mitosis, meiosis, you gather this materials. Again, gather materials for, actually there's not that many materials to grab for this one, the Mendelian corn. The natural selection one, there are some issues for some people who need to have Java correctly downloaded to their computer to be able to use this online model. It's not that hard to do it. There are instructions on how to fix that here. Same thing with natural selection peppered moths, how to open the simulation file. This should help you do it here. And then the very last lab is Hardy-Weinberg. This is also one where if you don't have white beans and black beans, you can choose red beans and black beans. Or I've even had one student in the past who all he had was marshmallows because he didn't have any money. So what he did is he took marshmallows and a Sharpie and he marked some marshmallows with a black dot and some marshmallows he didn't mark. And so he had his two groups to work with in this experiment. So everything is due down to the very last final. In the final exam, you cannot use it's not open book. Your quizzes are. Each quiz for each lab is open book. But the final is not, and you have to use lockdown browser where you're not allowed to go out of the browser to be able to see anything else. Don't use your books, don't use your notes, don't use people, okay, to do this. So, good luck with everything. Please let me know if you have any questions, and again, I want to reiterate, it's very important that you do not wait till last minute to do these labs. You will have a bad day if that happens. I've had lots of complaints in the past, but it's because people wait to the last moment to do everything, and if you do that, it won't go well. I'm just warning you now. Good luck. I'm not trying to scare you, but please make sure that you just split it up. Do one day, do another one another day, and do another one the next day, and then you're done. Don't try to do all three or in your lab reports all in one day. You will go crazy. So good luck. Let me know if you got any questions, and I will respond as soon as possible.